these plans is clear: to appropriate the vast potential of natural and energy resources, strategic resources that are stored in the motherland of the Libyan people. Mr. President, the Pentagon announced, according to the AFP news agency, Agence France Presse, and I quote, that the U.S. military is repositioning military forces around Libya. End quote. The Security Council resolution, however, has not authorized military intervention. Yet, an imperialist country is unilaterally and visibly deploying its military and nuclear machinery in order to carry out an armed attack against Libya. In today's headlines, the Spanish newspaper El País states, and I quote, "Obama proposes the creation of a no-fly zone to the UN. U.S. naval forces are being mobilized around Libya for a possible intervention." End quote. Mr. President, Venezuela calls for the rejection of warmongering mobilization of the U.S. Air Force and Navy in the Mediterranean Sea. Those who promote the use of military force against Libya do not seek to defend human rights, but rather to establish, as always, a protectorate to violate them in one of the most important sources of oil and energy in the Middle Eastern region. Mr. President, we are confident that Libyan peoples, the African nations, along with peace-loving peoples from all corners of the world, will reject military occupation of Libya. Ethnic divisions, religious divisions, or any other kind of division that has been stimulant leads to fragmentation of nations, which generally speaking leads to fratricidal wars, which tend to be used in order to justify foreign invasion. Mr. President, we are convinced that the Libyan peoples, that the Arab and African nations, along with all peace-loving peoples from around the world, we are convinced that they will reject military occupation of Libya. We reiterate our condemnation of violence, imperialism, and interventionism. We urge countries represented here to contribute to the preservation of independence, sovereignty, and territorial integrity of Libya. We deplore the double standards applied to human rights by imperialist countries. Mr. President, the death of one single human being in Libya is painful. Also painful are the deaths of thousands of human beings suffering from imperialist military invasions. We hail the Arab peoples that are in a process of peaceful and righteous rebellion and who seek a better future on the path of peace. Mr. President, it is time for peace diplomacy, not war. It is time for dialogue, not violence. The United Nations exists to promote peace and understanding, not to promote the logic of war. Let us not allow, Mr. President, let us not allow the dynamics of death and the logic of annihilation to prevail amongst brothers and sisters of the same nation in Libya. Mr. President, President Hugo Chavez Frias yesterday proposed the establishment of a Goodwill International Commission in order to seek peace in Libya. It is necessary to promote immediately a dialogue between the government of Muammar al-Gaddafi and the opposition forces in order to achieve understanding and reconciliation for the Libyan people. Excellency, sir, says the President, the 10 minutes are up. The time allotted is up. The ambassador continues. We implore to the Almighty God so that the African Union, the Arab League, Islamic Conference, the Non-Aligned Movement, the Bolivarian Alliance of the Peoples of Our America, and others devote themselves urgently to work for peace in that country. Mr. President, allow me to conclude by asking, who will pay for the millions of deaths in Iraq? Who will pay for the ongoing massacre against the Palestinian people? Why haven't the convicted and confessed authors of these crimes of war against humanity and genocide not been taken to the International Criminal Court? What has the Security Council done regarding these horrendous massacres that continue with impunity? Finally, Mr. President, we wish to state for the record that the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela has reservations regarding the content of operative paragraph number 1 of Resolution A/65/L60, which was just approved in this General Assembly, which decides to suspend the rights of membership of the Libyan Arab Jama'iyya to the Human Rights Council. Mr. President, a decision such as this one could only take place after an objective and credible investigation that would confirm the veracity of events. No country can be condemned a priori. We consider this decision to be precipitated without first awaiting the results of the International Independent Inquiry Commission designated by the Human Rights Council through its resolution S/15/1 from February 25th of this year. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Voilà, je remercie.